Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for techies and non-techies who work in the techie world whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We're here to provide solutions that will help both the techie and non-techie live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria with another episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Our guest today is Marla Goldberg. I love saying that name, Marla Goldberg. Marla is an energy healer, intuitive, speaker, teacher, host of guided spirit conversations, which are available on her website at marlagoldberg.net, and a best-selling author of My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. Marla's mission is to help inspire, motivate, and educate and transform her clients and her audiences in all her endeavors. Welcome to the show, Marla Goldberg.
Hello, Joanne. How are you?
I'm great, and I'm glad that you're here.
Me too.
What I'm seeing is that you want to help our audience to help them release anger, forgive others, forgive themselves, learn self-acceptance, and know that they can learn to love themselves better, no matter what they think about themselves now. So how does our audience do that, Marla?
Well, first they can buy the book, but above and beyond that, you know what? I had a long journey and didn't realize how much I didn't love myself, and my self-esteem was low and my self-confidence was low. And I just feel that through the tips, tools, and techniques, or the TTTs that I call them in the back of my book, which are the most powerful ones that help to transform my life, incorporating them into their life will help them to, first, I think the first step is releasing anger, because that is such it binds you down so much. It's like an anchor.
It's damaging.
It's very damaging. And some people don't even realize they're angry because they repress it so much. And then it comes out in inappropriate ways or at inappropriate times. But those are signs that you've got anger, deep down inside. And because most of us, our parents or our parents' didn't have the guidebook on how to raise a functional, have a functional family and raise functional children. They just repeated the cycle that they were accustomed to. And so, as kids, we get angry for being reprimanded, punished. Some of us, had, what do they call it? Physical punishment. Because I know my father, he would use his shoes or his belt, or if we said a bad word, there was soap in the mouth.
Oh, that belt.
That belt.
Your father's going to get you later.
Exactly.
Oh, that belt for minor and major things. The major things were my mother with shoes.
I hope they weren't her high heels.
I can't remember. All I know is she would open the closet and throw shoes at me. It went from time to time. He was more the disciplinarian, pushed by her. That was not his natural state.
And so for me, my mother was she didn't do any of the punishing. My father did. But at a certain point, that all went away. And I guess in my book, I explain it as a lot of neglect and abandonment, because there was no guidance, no direction in our lives. We just sort of were left to wander the streets on our own. Hey, there's a roof over our head. My parents were both professionals. We had clothes on our back, food to eat, but the very important structure that is needed for someone to grow up with, boundaries and values, that was missing in my life.
Well, I think it was missing in a lot of our lives. I mean, who even knew the word values when you were young? Who understood that as a concept? I mean, it wasn't, I don't know, but it didn't exist for me, and it didn't exist for a lot of people I know. That the boundaries were, when your family says don't do that, you didn't do that. And the other time was taken up with maybe taking chances, and then being told to stop. You can't do that. there was no in between. It was like up or down, yes or no, black or white. There
Right.
was no insight, no reasons why, because their parents didn't give them any reason why.
That's exactly right. That's the same way. And I know that my sister, for example, I didn't have children. I didn't birth children. But I know that the cycle that we grew up in, there's a little bit of the cycle that was that she brought to her family in raising her children. And, unless you take a stance and realize what the cycle is and say, I'm not doing that, I'm going the other way. And maybe you get a little strident with structure or boundaries. But that's what my thought was. When I was young and I was engaged, my thought was, I want to be there for the children. I want to be there to guide them and give them direction and guidance, because I didn't have it, and be there for them and teach them boundaries, which I still at that time didn't know, but I didn't know I didn't know.
Right. Isn't that amazing how we don't know what we don't know? We didn't know what we didn't know. We didn't. I'm including you in this we thing, but I'm sure that there are people who are listening who also didn't know what they were what would have benefited them to know.
Exactly. And so when you go, what would I do? Well, this builds anger. Plus, when you're not brought up, with all the implements in place, you don't make decisions that really serve you well. And if you don't know, now the word is conflict resolution.
Oh, how cute.
I was never taught conflict resolution.
No, those are just phrases that work today in the business world and in the personal world, because they sound great when you say them. But conflict resolution, certainly when I was a child, was the conflict is you screwed up. The resolution is you get a smack on your butt. That's it.
Right. But then, but it doesn't teach you how to deal with things as you get older. And
absolutely.
Then it also, adds to the repressed anger, or the anger that you don't deal with, and again, it's repressed because you push it under the rug. And how do you get that up and out? I mean, that's the first step, is how to relieve yourself of this. I remember when I was 5 years old, I used to be a very giggly child. I was very happy, very giggly. And I was with my father, and I don't even know what happened. I think I might have been playing with something on the radio, and he smacked my hand, and because I was laughing about something, and he goes, "Not everything is a joke. Not everything is funny." And from then on, I became a very somber child.
That has a familiar ring to it now that you mention it.
Does it?
Yeah, not everything is funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, are we the same person, Marla?
So it's not a coincidence that we're together today.
No.
And so getting to, releasing anger, it just, first of all, you feel like you've just lightened up like 100 pounds of energy when you can get it up and out. And getting it up and out can be in the way of one of my TTTs, tips, tools, techniques. One of my favorites is I take a toy bat, and this was going on when I first learned how to do this. Of course, I was much older, and I was going down my spiritual path. So I was in school for energy healing, and I had a healing, massage table that I used for my work in my basement. And I would go down there, and I would just take this bat, and I would just hit this table. And of course, I was by myself, so I could scream as I was hitting it, whatever you needed to do. And I would bring up tears. And again, going back to that story, I also stopped crying, because along with not everything is funny is stop crying. You don't need to cry over everything. Mm-hmm. They didn't want to be aware of it. And getting it up and out of your system. And if you don't like the idea of the bat, boxing is a great way. Playing tennis, you just put the focus of what you want to rid yourself of. If it's a person or a situation, and you take that ball, like when you're serving it or it's coming to you with all your might, and you whap it, and it just helps bring all of these energies and emotions up. And once they get up, it's up to you to allow them to come out. And once they come out, you start feeling so much better. And you can go into the next phase, which is learning how to forgive, realizing where some of these things come, and that sometimes people only could do what they can do because they don't know any better, like my upbringing.
Sure.
And, not only forgiving them, but by the time I learned these techniques, I had made so many bad decisions that didn't serve me. I had a lot of self-forgiving to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that through journaling. I did that through mirror work, where I would look in the mirror and forgive myself, tell myself how much I loved myself, and commit to doing something different. I'll commit to being, calmer, or I'll commit to allowing tears to come up and, give me the release I need, whatever it might be. And you could just do it. And Lisa Nichols has one that's very similar to mine, but where you look in the mirror and you can give yourself a limited amount of, I forgive you 4. You could do 5, you can do 7, you can do 10, but then you do the same amount with what I love about me is, or I'm lovable for. And then you go into, I commit to you that, so that I'm going to treat myself better, that I'm going to treat others better, that I'm going to be more truthful, whatever the issues are that are in somebody's field, an energetic field that they want to shift and change. But that work is really potent for forgiveness of self. It's forgiveness of others. And it then brings you into learning to accept yourself. And I did that through journaling and, again, different mirror work, affirmations. I would look at myself in the mirror naked. And, let's face facts. It's not always such a pleasant sight.
Well,
and to accept all of those, warts, what do I call it? Warts, wrinkles, and
warts, wrinkles, and all.
And all. But, you learn to accept it because that's who you are. And when you realize what an amazing individual you are, because we're all put on this earth as amazing individuals. A lot of us are, our behaviors are learned unless there's some sort of something happens at birth, that you can't control. But a lot of this is due to your upbringing. A lot of things that people deal with. Not everything, but a lot. And, once you learn to accept yourself, then you can sit there and get into loving yourself. Because loving yourself, accepting yourself is the first step to loving yourself completely.
Yeah, what was I writing about today? People who wanted to be right all the time, being righteousness in their being right, and how underneath it was they didn't love themselves, that they hated, there were things about themselves that they did not like, and, it manifests in different ways all the time. It can manifest in anger, which is very common. In fact, the first workshop that I ever did outside of my business at the time was called the Anger Workshop. I facilitated that with a partner at the time, and it was like an ideal one for me to work on because of my own rigidity and anger that was holding me back from doing lots and lots of things. But this lack of self-love and acceptance, which is not always prevalent, it's not always easy to see. And I think people who are listening have to understand that. It's, how can people self-identify, Marla, that they are angry and they need to forgive and accept and then love themselves?
I think one of the things, and this is not an easy thing because a lot of us are not mindful, we're not aware.
Yeah.
But when you can pay attention to your words, your thoughts, your projections on other people. That gives you an idea because people come into our life to reflect to us things that we need to work on, as well as things that are really pretty and beautiful and wonderful about ourselves. And so when somebody shows you a reflection of yourself that you don't like and it rubs you the wrong way, you have to, one needs to stop and go, oh, what is it about them that is rubbing me the wrong way? And is this something that's within me? Am I seeing a reflection of myself? And it takes introspection.
Right.
Now, a lot of people don't like introspection.
Right.
They don't know how to do introspection, but do it in baby steps. Because, when there's a conflict of any kind, you need to sort of look and say, okay, what's my part in this? Even though you feel like the victim, you do hold a part in everything, in my opinion.
Oh, I agree with you. I think that people tend to want McDonald's. They want it done now, whatever it is. They don't realize they were born, they couldn't move, and then they moved around a little bit, and then they crawled, and then they walked, and then they ran, and then they were able to combine those efforts into becoming, an upright human being. But everything has to be taken in steps, because I know in the past, some of my Buddhist teachers were saying, and even the Dalai Lama says, if you got consciousness right now, you would go insane.
Yes, you would.
If you got it all in one swoop, you would go insane. You would not. There would be no comprehension.
Exactly. It's like eating a whole cake in one sitting.
Well, wait a minute now.
Cake.
When you say whole cake, I can eat a half a cake in one sitting.
Yeah, but I'm talking about big 12-inch cake with 4 layers of cake.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about a big cake and sitting down and eating the whole thing. You explode. Because you're so overloaded. Your circuits would expire because they're so overloaded.
Right.
If that should happen. And so it is a process. It's just, taking it step by step. And so here's another piece too that I want to make sure that I touch upon. Is that a lot of times people, when they're very unhappy with themselves and they don't love themselves, one of the ways you can know that you don't love yourself is by how you are, by your relationships. Are you a hoarder? When a relationship leaves, do you feel that hole in your heart? And what I've learned in my studies is that many of us wounded people walk around with holes in our heart, and we fill the holes with people, with things that we want to buy, keeping up with the Joneses, all to feel better about ourselves and to say, well, look at me, I've accomplished this. Now I'm lovable. Well, guess what? Eventually, these things fall away. Not everything, but something. And then you still have those holes in your heart. They haven't filled up. They haven't healed. They're just open, and now they're empty because whatever filled them is gone. And part of the journey of self-love is actually filling these holes with your own essence. And so I used to own a bakery, so I'll use another bakery analogy. I love my bakery goods. So I look at the heart like a cake. And instead of having holes in my cake was, when you develop self-acceptance and self-love, your heart becomes a whole cake. Now, anything else that comes into your life, I call the frosting and decorations of the cake. Mm-hmm. They come in, they cover the cake, they keep the cake moist, they decorate the cake, they make it look pretty. But if they should go away, you still have a really great cake. Mm-hmm. So nobody's taking that away from you. And then you don't need to go outside of yourself to feel fulfilled and to feel love, because you totally accept yourself.
Yeah, people don't realize that everything is from within. Everything that they are or can be, it lives as a solitary instrument, as a body and a person with mind. And I'm not even going to say soul, because some people, until they get to the more mindfulness aspect, there is no soul. They're just seeking something and they don't know what, whether it's McDonald's or a whole cake, whether it's quick or it takes a little bit of time, or whether they get healed. And I think that becomes problematic for people. They just think that they have to, if I took that course, if I bought that book, if I married that guy or gal, if I had that car, or if and when all of this happens, then I'll be okay. It doesn't work that way.
Right. I agree. It doesn't.
I wish it did. It would be so much easier.
But we're brought here for our lessons. We're brought here to learn, and through the lessons we grow. And it's like if you look at a plant, it starts as a seed and it goes into a seedling. Very similar to the baby, analogy you used earlier. And then it grows up. But while it's becoming a full-fledged giant plant, or adult plant, a mature plant, it still has to go through its phases. And that's what we need to do as well. We're brought here to live a divine life, but we're also brought here to clean up things from past lives or from things that we've picked up along the way on our journey in this life and this body that we're in.
And people don't get how much time it can take.
And here, what you put in, you get out. So if you really want to work on yourself and you really want to put the effort and energy in, your transition will happen a little bit faster than somebody who doesn't. I mean, I use the gym analogy. If you want to change your body, you go to the gym, 5, 6, 7 days a week. But if you go to the gym once a week, once a month, once every 2 months, you're not going to see a lot of change going on in the way your body is formed.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes in, to the same effect of what you were saying.
Well, God has a plan, and as it said, God helps those who help themselves. So the plan for each and every one of us is X, whatever it might be, but it's, again, we're climbing the stairs, we're walking the walk, we're following our path, but we have to do the work. Yes. And people don't want to do the work. I don't know what they're waiting for, because, we have I don't know, what is 121 is the longest living person right now, 121 years old. And I've seen some great looking 100-year-old people, and I have seen some pathetic 60-year-old people. So it's how they have lived or not lived their life, because if you live a hard life and you're not looking to seek forgiveness of yourself and become a whole human being and be the great cake inside the heart, nothing's going to change.
And what I find from my experience is a lot of times people are afraid. It's fear-based because they're comfortable with the devil they know rather than the devil they don't. What if they do all this changing and they change their life and then they move into the next phase and it's worse than the one that they left?
Right.
I mean, it's the devil you know plus the devil you don't.
But it can only be worse if you compare.
Right.
And that's another thing we have a problem with, is comparing ourselves to others.
That is so true.
On every level that we're discussing right now, comparing ourselves. Well, it goes back to also, who do you attract, and what about them is similar to something about yourself. And I remember, I'll talk about it off radio because I don't want to take up any more of your time. So, okay, so we have our tips, tools, and techniques. Is that it, the 3 T's?
Yep. The TTTs, yes.
The TTTs, which is a great little saying. And yeah, it is really good. So as an energy healer, how do you help these people?
Well, everybody comes in with something different. Nothing, there's no two situations that are the same. So I'll start with that. So I meet people at the place where they're at. And depending upon which modality I'm working with, if I'm using my spiritual response therapy, SRT, which is about cleaning blocks, programs, and imprints off your Akashic records from either past lives or current life, or if it's just intuitive guidance, life coaching, I have to listen to where they're at. And depending upon what they're coming to me for, is what I'll utilize. I'll pull out my bag of tools and use. Traditionally, I offer 4 techniques in my practice, but I'm trained in 24 of them. But these 4 I find are very powerful and insightful.
And what are the 4 techniques that you are trained in that you use?
So it's spiritual response therapy, or SRT, Chinese face reading, space clearing, and intuitive guidance counseling. I'm a certified intuitive life coach. And traditionally, a lot of times
that's 3
modalities, space clearing, Chinese face reading, SRT, and certified life coaching.
Okay, got it.
I thought I was using my fingers. I knew there were 4 there.
Okay, I was just I just heard 3 and wrote down 3, and I couldn't.
So, but but a lot of times I don't just stay with, if I'm doing an SRT clearing on you and a session on you, if I get intuitive guidance, you better believe I'm sharing it with you, because if Spirit's giving me a message, the message isn't for me to keep for myself. It's because my client needs to know what's being said. Or I find out what somebody's birth date is, or I look at their picture and I can talk about their characteristics and what's going on with them that way, which could help with where I'm going with either my SRT or my intuitive guidance, my life coaching. And so everything is just very customized. It's not...
it's not cookie cutter. I don't think it can be cookie cutter. You have different people coming to you, and you have to give them what they need in that time from your experiences.
Exactly. And the whole purpose for me is to get them at what I call the sweet spot, to a place where they're feeling better, where they're releasing, where their life is flowing in the direction that they want it to flow in, that they're feeling happy, feeling the abundance, feeling healthy. Whatever the area that's binding them down, I want to see the binds move away and have them live a happier, joyful, more fulfilling life. And I believe it can be done because it happened to me.
And that's the only way we can help others, is knowing that if we can do it, others can do it. And even if we didn't do it on our own, we're on the path. Marla's best email address is Marla, M-A-R-L-A, at mghealer, that's mghealer.com. And where else can they find you, Marla?
Well, I'm on Facebook. So my Facebook address, I guess it's what you call an address, is marla.goldberg.9. On Twitter, I'm at @mghealer. Instagram is marla.goldberg, and LinkedIn is Marla Goldberg.
Okay, and her website is marlagoldberg.net. I'd appreciate it, audience, if you just rush right over to iTunes and give Marla a good review, a great review, actually. I think you can give her a 5-star review, and contact her for all of the tips, tools, and techniques that she has. Also, if you buy her book, My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path. Let me do that again. My Effing Long Journey to Loving Myself, A Guide to a Shorter Path, which is on Amazon, and I'm guessing it is on your website as well. And I thank Marla for being here today. I also want to advise my listeners to go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com, and you can sign up to receive a free copy of the True The True Self Handbook, A Guide to Transform Your Life. And also, when you're up there in iTunes and giving Marla Goldberg a 5-star review, give the Sanity Project podcast heads up as well. Thanks very much for everybody being here today. I appreciate you being here, Marla Goldberg, and I will talk to everybody soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to AskJoanneVictoria.com to listen to more podcasts and get a free copy of her report, 5 Steps to Achieve Work-Life Balance. That's AskJoanneVictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.